Hey, oh wow, there's already loads of people in the queue. Hello. Hopefully the audio level's okay. I'm on a bit early just to make sure everything's working because I had the wrong mic last time. So I want to make sure everything's okay. So let me know if I sound alright. If the music's too loud, anything like that, let me know. I'm gonna try to untangle my headphones in the meanwhile. And try to say hello to whoever is here. So we have Matchlocks. Is that right? Matchlocks, hello, welcome aboard. Nice to have you. Thank you for joining. Hey, okay, cool. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can. Fingers crossed. We've got Jeff718 just casually makes a new TTRPG. No biggie. I mean, it was kind of an accident and also kind of inevitable. But the last, week or two, I mean, for the last little while anyway, I've been putting some effort into it. But recently, it's kind of very, very close now to becoming playable. So I'm like, woo! It's kind of cool. Though I don't have any monsters and I don't have any spells yet, which are going to take a lot of work, but we'll see how we go. We've got Benji, hello, howdy. Good morning. Amber, hello. Now on correct account. Okay, oh cool, perfect, nice. Welcome aboard. We've got Pierre Alexandre. Hello, greetings from Montreal. Wow, nice. Oh, lovely. Very nice. What's it like in Montreal at the moment? It is roasting here. It's about 30 degrees constantly at all times. 30 degrees Celsius, that is, for any Americans and people who don't use Celsius, use Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is. Maybe someone can answer that in the chat. I can't believe I got to stream. Big E, thank you for joining. I'm so glad. We have Minrod Vils, the Night Gamer. Hello. Is it nighttime where you are right now? Are you at your peak moment? Have you got the most gaming powers at your disposal? Big E says, I'm planning on beginning your Ghostar playlist. What does that mean? How are you beginning my costume? What does that mean? Amber says, I have multiple accounts. Aha, this is my gaming-focused account. Very nice, gaming-focused. Well, you're in the right place. I'm going to be talking about games very soon. Wait for people to trickle in, and then we can hop on and chat about the game that I'm making. I'll keep it all hidden for now, though. But if you've got any questions, let me know in the meantime. Let me know, too, if this is too loud, if I'm too close to the mic, if I need to go back here. I don't know. Let me know. We'll do all the little logistics kind of setup stuff now. In the meantime, Pierre says, it's been very hot for a few weeks, but we've got huge rains yesterday, and now it's more bearable. It's a more bearable heat. Lovely. Yeah, we could do a little bit of rain. I love summer showers. They're like, hello, Blue. You want to be on the stream? Hi. You're being recorded right now? This is Blue, for anyone who doesn't know Blue. This is my fiancée and our child. Our baby. She's a cutie. But yeah, we're looking forward to a bit of that because it has been kind of like non-stop the same hot temperature throughout the whole night, throughout the day. It is lovely, but it's also pretty intense now at this stage because we don't have AC or anything in the house. We have a big fan. What else have we got here? The Modern Fantasy. Hello, welcome aboard. Amber says, 86F jealous. It's so cool that 94F now. Oh, sorry. Fahrenheit. 86 Fahrenheit is 30 degrees. Nice. Jealous. That's cool. That's cold. I suppose so. Yeah, when I was in Japan, living in Japan, what was that? Let me see. Let me see, 50 C2F. It was like 122 degrees. Yeah, so pretty close to that. Like it was rotten weather when I lived over there. So God, that sounds rough. Yeah, you need AC for that. Carl makes stuff. Yo, what is up? What is up, Carl? We're going to talk about TTRPG today. We're just going to wait till the hour arrives, and then we're going to go jump into it. Triceros, holy Triceros is here. What the fuck? Okay, well maybe I gotta hop into it now. Well, we got Trek in here. That's crazy. I wasn't expecting that. Oh my God, Mr. Goblin is me, sweating my balls off here in the hot summer. I'm not used to it. I'm from Ireland, so you know that's where it's like constantly at like gray and overcast and raining temperatures. Guess who got married last month? You got married? Congratulations! Oh my God, that's huge. Robert Bailey says should be starting up any minute now. Yes, I'm gonna start up any minute now. Yeah, nah. Says, where are you? I'm actually living in Finland now. We're kind of in a city called Tampere. We just moved here recently, which is why my setup is kind of a bit rough at the moment. But yeah, that's where we are. I've never been on YouTube live stream before. Oh my God, well, congratulations. Welcome to your first live stream. Book Bro, hello. Okay, right. Let's get serious. We're going to talk about my own personal TTRPG right now. So let's go over here. This is something I was working on recently for my patrons. And this is essentially, in a nutshell, this is my magic system for my TTRPG. Right now, as it is, it's suited for D&D. Everything I'll be making has been for D&D. I like to describe it as like me incubating the system within D&D's confines, because essentially you can playtest everything you're making within D&D, because D&D is like this ultimate sandbox. It's just a physics sandbox that you can just muck around with and do anything you like with. So that's kind of why I'm testing it out in here. But the magic system, the way it works is it's based around this whole system called Arcane affiliations, or threads, or I'm actually leaning up. Immediately I've printed this out and published it to my patrons, but I'm actually half considering calling it strands instead of threads, because I think strands just kind of sounds a bit nicer and has a bit of a double meaning and stuff. Strands of magic and whatnot. So we'll go down here. This is the lore. You can read it away if you want. But essentially, I'll read you a little snippet here. So, magic flows through Gostar like blood in the body. Gostar is my own homebrew world that I've been working on for over 10 years at this stage. So, unlike the schools of magic, rigid structures fabricated by mortals to control and understand the chaos that is magic, these natural energies exist within Arcana. Arcana is the god of magic, and is magic itself in the world of Gostar. That's connected to every facet of reality. Okay? So these natural energies could be described as different flavors of Arcana, and they are known as threads, or arcane threads, or threads of Arcana, or, as I'm leaning towards, strands. So that's a summary of how magic works. And you've got all of these different threads, these different flavors of magic. And they work in a nice little wheel, a nice aesthetically pleasing wheel. And these are your damage types, this is your creature types, these are the schools of magic, all in one compact kind of type circle thing. So every creature out there is going to be one or possibly two of these types, and every spell that you cast is going to be connected to one of these strands of magic, and every character that you make will have a strand type too. Every player will be a strand type and will have certain affiliations with these different strands based on that type. This affects your personality, and should you wish to like delve deeper in that, usually everyone's associated with a thread type, but it doesn't really affect them all in all in their everyday life. But if you wish to delve deeper into that side of yourself, you can do there's two ways to connect yourself to the arcane and to practice these kind of magical abilities and connect to these threads and everything else. The safest route is to practice spellcasting. So you just go and you study it, and some people are naturally gifted with this. Other people might have to learn and practice and study and learn how to basically how learn the physics of magic and how to safely wield it and control it through runes and whatnot. But there is a slightly more unstable way that's kind of frowned upon in society because it's so dangerous. It leaves you so vulnerable. And that is through a process. And anyone can do this, though. This is a process that anyone can do. You don't have to be naturally or magically gifted in any ways. And this process is known as opening gates within yourself. So when you open up these gates, and this is on a skill tree that I've made for people. I'll show you a little skill tree down here. A lot of stuff here, sorry. Okay, so we've got this skill tree. And when you open your first gate of resonance, you let the powers of that thread come into your body and influence you. I've talked about this in the previous stream, but I'm just going to do a little summary for anyone who hasn't been caught up with everything. So you start to open these gates within yourself, and when you open a gate, it is permanently open and can never be closed again, which is why this is quite a scary process. But each gate will allow you to connect to different arcane threads in different ways, but also allows them to actively influence you and change your very being and of who you are. You become more and more influenced by the thread that is currently running through you, that you're currently connected to. But should your thread ever change, all of these gates will remain open. So let's say I went down a whole kind of thing here. I went to resonance and then I went in embody. Embody basically gives you these kind of personality traits, and I'll show you a little sample of them down here. So if you're an air type, you've got 3 different personality traits here. You've got like airhead, so you don't need to breathe, but you have disadvantage on insight checks. So they all have a pro and a con whenever you take on one of these traits. And you might take on some of these traits at the start because they're optimal for your build and everything. You might choose patience, so the first attack in combat is always at advantage, but you roll initiative at disadvantage, and maybe that benefits you or whatever. Maybe you're going for a roguish kind of build or whatever. But should your thread type ever change, all of these gates that you've unlocked, they remain open. So say this embody thing, that remains open. Let's say you've purchased it twice and you've got 2 personality traits associated with your thread type. Those will completely change when your thread type changes. And now all of a sudden you might have gone from, being an airhead and very patient to now you've changed to a fire type and you're hot-headed and you've got this burning passion. So your personality also changes because you open that up. You opened your personality and very soul up to the influence of these threads, which I think is pretty cool. There's ways for it to permanently change and there's ways for it to temporarily change. But that's the summary of the magic system. Okay, so we'll go back up here we'll go leave this here for now while we're chatting. I'm going to catch up quickly just to say hello to everyone because I've been missing a bunch of messages that have been coming here. So I'll just say hello to some folks. We've got Froyo Rion Pop. Hello, welcome, hello. We've got Game Master's Guide. Hello, how's it going, Ryan? Awesome. Well, really cool to have you. Thank you for joining. Big E says, is this like Genshin Impact's elemental interactions? I don't know. I haven't really played. I can't remember Genshin Impact. I played a bit of it, but I don't know. Maybe. The way I kind of see it as well, it kind of reminds me of Castle Crashers. Every one of the Castle Crasher characters have like a different kind of element, I suppose, and they get access to different spells and abilities, and some are more magically inclined, some are more like martial inclined, and I just love that idea. I love this concept of type charts and changing kind of your personality types and all this. I just love elemental things. I love Avatar, all that kind of stuff. So, so many. There's an endless amount of influences here. Oh my goodness. Wiz Volner, is that how you pronounce it? Says hello, handsome goblin. Very kind of you. Kotri says, it would be fun if they were good against 2 types instead of just 1. It would then make it more complicated, but currently feels too simple. I don't know. There's a lot of complicated stuff that you can do with this, to be fair. And I don't want it to be complicated. I want it to be, I already think it's actually too complicated to digest, especially for people who aren't used to these type charts. So I think simplicity is actually quite important with this, especially to make it more appealing to like a more general audience. But I get it. I can understand your point though. The Modern Fantasy, hello, welcome, says, okay, interesting. Makes some mechanical stuff easier. Okay, interesting. Makes some mechanical stuff easier having it this way. Yeah. That's the idea. That everything is kind of, once you know this is kind of the bread and butter. This is the lifeblood of how magic and everything works in this TTRPG. Is this kind of holy grail? This is your kind of go-to chart. Piggy says, I can, my guy. I can, might guy. Pierre Alexander says, please, I need to know, can you play as goblins? Of course you can play as goblins. There's so many kin. All the kin videos that I'm making right now, those are all going to be translated to my World of Goster as well, and you're going to get access to all of those. I can bring up as well, while we're here, I'll bring up the system I'm working on now. This is a skill tree. Probably a lot of you are familiar with this skill tree. I've made a bunch of classes skill trees for D&D. And I'm now changing all of them. I am translating them all to my new TTRPG system, which I'll get on in a minute. But yes, in the list of how to build your characters and everything, one of the steps is, where is it? Choosing a kin. So there will be the kins of Gostar in this TTRPG, and goblins 100% will be in there because the system itself is called Goblins. It's called Goblins. Let's see. Book Pro, hello. So however strong your connection to your type, the more impactful the change of your thread. Yeah, you've summed it up pretty well there. Yeah, the more impactful the connection to the thread, but also the more you open yourself up to your counter thread's weakness. So, for example, if I go really deep into fire here, the more I build my resonance with fire, the more of a vulnerability I'm going to build up with air. The more damage air type attacks are going to hurt me. So that's also the pros and cons to this, which is always fun. I love a good push and pull, and trying to summarize which is the best way to go, whatever the else. But yeah. Sterling, hello Sterling. Have you considered adding more strengths and weaknesses between elements? Yes. But I don't think it should be complicated, like I said. I think a wheel is simple and clean, but it's colorful and interesting and complex enough that and easy to remember too, I think, to some degree. It kind of maybe gets a bit dicey around these ones here and how they all kind of translate, but yeah, I'm going for simplicity more than anything, so it's easy to digest. Oh, sorry. I'm going to call you Froyo, if that's okay. Is it okay to call you Froyo? Sorry about the name. You don't need to apologize about the name. I'm just really bad. I'm notoriously bad at pronouncing people's names, and I apologize. Misfortune says, love the font and the general aesthetic. Everyone loves the font. I'm so glad people love the font. And I put a lot of effort into finding this particular font to get it right, and I'm so glad you like it. Robert Bailey says, simple is good for game systems. Time spent stopping and checking the book is less time spent playing the game, and I totally agree. That's why I don't like Pathfinder. It's so airtight, it's balanced, but because there's so many rules for everything, you're constantly double checking what everything means, and there's so many terms and phrases for everything. I want to keep this lighter. I think almost lighter than D&D, but more layered and complex, I think, because D&D to some degree is actually quite complicated to learn. I like games that are easy to learn, kind of take a long time to master, so things that you can go really deep with, and that's kind of what I want to go with. And there's a lot of customization with this skill tree, and I'll show you that now. God, I've got so many messages in, so maybe I'll come back to the messages, and we'll take a little deep dive into like the core mechanics of this game to start off. So, what have we got? Yeah, all right. So, first of all, core main abilities. The first there's 4 abilities in this, kind of 5. The first one is power. So power is, it's a nice, vague, kind of broad term. I'll take close the window here so I'm not disturbing the neighbors. Oh, there we go. Okay, so power, nice broad term, but it's essentially used for physical attacks, any physical attack, and it determines how much HP that you gain as well. So it's your general kind of like the classic stat that any main shonen anime protagonist would have. And then we've got agility. So agility is pretty self-explanatory, and this stat will determine your AC and how much you move, as well as a few other things like I'm still working out initiative, how I want to track initiative, but essentially, I think agility might be also applied there. Like, it'll be really clean, you won't be rolling. It's just whoever has the highest agility goes first. If you have the same agility as someone, or you can also, postpone your turn in the first round of combat to slot yourself in beside an ally or something. And basically, if you share the same agility or same initiative or whatever, you can both go at the same time. Monsters will always win at draws, and then that's it. Super easy. You just write it all out. You kind of know who's going first and when, always, which is nice. I think it's clean, and obviously you can swap it up if you've got high agility. You can place yourself wherever. Mine then is kind of like power, but for spells, for mystical attacks and spell effects. Mine's used for some other things as well, which I'll touch on in a little bit, but mine is your mind. It's the power of your mind. We've then got spirit. This is kind of like also like your willpower, your soul, and everything else. This determines how much stamina and how much mana that you gain when you access the skill tree, because in the skill tree you have to purchase health, you have to purchase mana, and you have to purchase stamina. They're like 3 core main resources in this system. And then you've got luck. Luck is a really fun one. We've talked about it here already on the channel and a few other live streams. But to summarize, at the start of every level, you roll a d6 and you get that much luck to spend throughout your level. Once it's gone, it's gone. However, you can go into negative luck. You can spend luck that you don't have and you'll start going into negative luck. But then once you get to your next level, once you level up, your luck resets back to 0. You roll a d6 and add that much to your luck. And so sometimes level 2 might be a great level. That was your lucky level, but then levels 3 through 5 were just terrible. You had no luck. And I just think that's fun. It is random. But you can give yourself bad luck essentially. So you can start spending luck that you don't have. Your luck can go into negative scores, and that negative score will apply to a lot of things. So like attacks against you and stuff will get a little bonus or whatever, or it'll subtract from your AC. What I think is cool is if maybe at the end of a boss battle you're going to level up, you're going to constantly push your luck that you don't have and keep going into like serious negatives, even though you're just because you're like, okay, if we push through this, if we survive, we're going to get luck, and everything's going to reset, everything's going to be fine, we're going to get so much karma from this. And the way you push luck, the main reason you would use luck is this is a 2d6 system. So this is, in this game, you roll 2d6 to pretty much do everything. So we've got a nice bell curve, and usually I hate bell curves. I hate it. I hate whatchamacallit for that reason. What's the main GURPS? Is the main TTRPG that uses 2d6s, and I hate it. I really hate it, because it's a bell curve. So there's 2 reasons I use 2d6s. First, one of the first reasons actually is I wanted a dice that is you can access easily. You can just take from anything. You can take from a board game. It's not intimidating. It's familiar to everyone. Another reason I hate it. I hate the 2d6 system, and so most of the time, and because of that, I kind of saw it as a challenge. I wanted to see how I could make it better. And I found a way to make it better, and I think it's really cool. I also want to work with lower numbers, so 6s are better than like d20s or whatever. And you can strategize a lot more with these. So the way it works, very simple scenario. You're trying to beat someone's AC. You'll roll 2d6s plus your power to make an attack against them, and say their AC is 7. You want to roll higher than 7. So let's roll. I got 3 plus 6 here. Let's say my power is 2. So it's 9 plus 2, so that's 11. And now they will take their armor. Well, they'll take, what I rolled minus their armor damage. So they have 7 armor. I rolled 11, so they're going to take 4 damage. Whatever you go over their AC, that's how much damage they take. Now, the fun thing here is we've also got an exploding dice mechanic in this. So, let's say I roll my 2d4s. Let's say they've got 7 AC. Again, let's say I roll and I get 2 3s. So this is what's called a rad roll. Whenever you roll 2 of the same number, you roll another dice. So it's called a rad roll. Roll another dice. So then I've got my 2 3s. I roll another d6, and now I get to add that result as well to what I've already rolled. So now I've got 6 plus the 2, so that is 8. So I'm going to do 1 damage to them because their AC is 7. And this can keep going. So if I was to roll another 3, I now have 9 altogether, and I get another rad roll. So I get to roll another d6, and it can keep exploding and exploding and exploding. If you've got advantage, you roll an extra d6. So you don't roll 2, you roll 3, and you'll take the highest. And if you have disadvantage, you roll 3, take the lowest 2. So you're constantly fishing for these rad rolls to like have damage explode and stuff like that. And there's other powers and abilities that in this system that you can use that extra dice that you get for other things. Like for example, I just wrote up kind of essentially there's a weapon flourish that you can use whenever you get a rad roll. Here's a better example. In the kind of roguish branch, there are these exposing strikes, and whenever you get a rad roll on someone, you can spend your extra dice to give them some sort of condition or whatever. You can stun them, or you can poison them, or whatever. So you do different things. Instead of adding that extra damage, you can add this strike to them. Other kind of like fightery builds might be able to use it to make an extra attack instead of just doing the extra damage to someone else. They could maybe use that extra dice to damage an adjacent person, so their like axe cleaves through the one person and continues on and does a little bit of extra damage to someone beside them. So that's the system in a nutshell. Let's see if people like it or not. Robert Bailey says, complex systems can work in video games where the system does all the work in the background, but in TTRPG, it's all manual. Big thing. Yeah, 100%. You nailed it on the head. Big E says he's going to watch sorry to assume genders there. Big E says they are going to watch the Kin playlist now. Cool bula. Pierre says, I love it. Amber says, I still want a Gostar Gazetteer. We'll get there. It's all gonna be. It's all in the process. It's gonna take a while, but I'm getting there slowly. Froyo says, yes, actually, I go by Froyo. Oh, perfect, nice, hell yeah. Widge says, Widge is pronounced. Oh, Vice, Vice. Oh my God, that's so much easier. Thank you. Vice says it's pronounced Vice. Book Bro says, out of curiosity, I don't know if you have already answered it elsewhere, but where does the name Gostar come from? So Gostar, my homebrew world, comes from the gods tear originally. So the gods tore through reality and made this new world, and it was kind of like stretched out from reality, and that's kind of why it's a teardrop shape. It started to drip from the chaos as they pushed against the borders of reality. So it was the gods tear in reality. But then because of the teardrop shape and things, that slowly changed to the god's tear. And over time, that just got smaller and smaller and just became Gostar. And when you look at a map, when you flatten down a tier, it is a 6-pointed star, so it kind of looks like a star. So people are like, oh, Gostar, that's where it comes from. So that's the journey of it. Though I know in is it Portuguese, it means to like, as I've been told by quite a few people. Vice says, I love that more and more creators are making their own stuff rather than continuing to just homebrew hack 5e until it's no longer really 5e anymore. That's the thing. I've gone too far now. I've gone so far that it's not D&D anymore. I've made it something completely different, and it's a TTRPG that I've made. But yeah. Amber says, I've just been in a few games and had sessions that just grounded to a halt where everyone debates rules, references Twitter. Oh my god. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that. If you play Yu-Gi-Oh! In person, you're playing it on like an online, thing. There's so much like looking at text, and you literally need to have a degree as a lawyer or something to like actually play Yu-Gi-Oh! To be the most efficient as possible when playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But I hate it because it just slows down all the momentum. It really, really does suck. So I want to avoid that as much as possible. I want my rules and mechanics and everything just to feel intuitive and simple and clean and easy. I want like 4 stats. I want to be minimalist while also adding lots of customization and options. Because Tales from Elsewhere, Peter from Tales from Elsewhere had a really good video on this, where he talked about basically he compared chess and Go. So chess, you would consider chess to be like quite complicated in compared to checkers, for example. Chess is more complicated. It's got more turns, and you might argue that the more complicated games are better games because there's all these all these different pieces do different things. You've got the knight that goes this way, you've got the queen that goes this way, and so on and so forth. And then you've got all the kind of like smaller little rules that are legal or whatever, where you can switch the king and the castle around and all that. And he then said, in comparison to that, though, there was 2 robots. There's a robot that was trying to beat the best player in chess, and it took them, I don't know how many years. Let's say, for example, I've got all the numbers wrong here, but let's say it took 10 years for this robot to get good enough to beat the best chess player. It took, let's say, 50 years for a robot to beat the best Go player. And in Go, all you've got is black and white pieces, and you just put one down, and that's it. That's the rules. But there are so many ways to go about that game, and so many different strategies and stuff like that, that even though there's only 2 pieces and they do one thing, there's like, you could summarize how to play the game in like 1 sentence. In comparison to chess, which is a bit more complicated. And yet, even though that's way more simple, it's still way more complicated and takes a lot more to like master, and there's more juice to it, and you could be mastering it for years and years and years. So that's kind of what I'm aspiring to be. I'm aspiring this game to be more of a Go rather than a checkers or a chess. So that's my vision. Rob Bailey says Godstar is portmanteau of God's tier, which is a description. Yes, yeah, thank you. You nailed it there. Thanks, Robert. Carl Make Stuff says, I like this luck rule. I like luck rules too. I like luck as a stat just in any game. I think it's always fascinating. But I like when in video games you don't really see it actively playing a part, but what I like in this is you are actively using your luck and utilizing your luck. It's not just like an RNG kind of thing. You get to see where it's going every time, which I think is fun. King of Quacks, that's an awesome name. King of Quacks says, have you made any spells yet? No, I haven't made any spells, and I haven't made any monsters, but I'll get to those for sure once I get to the magical branch, the mystic branch of my skill tree here, this blue section. Or for anyone who might be colorblind, it's the 5-pointed section there, where my cursor is. Let me see. Robert Bailey says, exploding dice systems are always really exciting. I love seeing those in systems. I love exploding dice. I just think it's so fun. It's so dynamic, and everyone likes rolling more dice, and there's so much hype. I think there's more hype to exploding dice than the occasional 1d20 because it's the hype can keep going. It can be like, oh, I've rolled doubles. Oh, I rolled doubles again. Oh, I rolled triples. I rolled quadruples, and it just keeps getting crazier. And all of a sudden, you're just one-shotting this massive monster because you just had that luck in your favor. Speaking of luck, I'll go back to that. Yeah, okay. The way you would spend luck, the way the dice rolls work. Let's say I rolled a 3 and a 2 on the dice. I could spend 1 luck to increase the value of this 2, or alternatively, if I wanted, I could decrease the value of the 3 to a 2. So I would get doubles then. So then I can roll again and roll another exploding dice, and on it goes. So that's what you can do. You can spend your luck on. You can use it to alter the actual numbers on the dice to ensure that you get more and more rad rolls. So, or alternatively as well, let's say an enemy got a rad roll. You could spend your luck to lower that by 1, so it's no longer a rad roll. Things like that. That's kind of how it works. But obviously, it's a very finite resource, and you can spend the luck that you don't have. But yeah, Game Master says, "Oh my God, Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh, crazy." Let me see. Carl Make Stuff says, if you have advantage, do you have to take the highest of the 2? No, sorry, actually. No, no, my mistake. No, when you have advantage, you take whichever 2 you want. So again, yeah, obviously, if you had a 5 and 2 3s, you're going to go with maybe the 2 3s in that situation, even though it's only kind of 1 higher than the 5. But yeah, that's you. Thanks for saying that. You can take whichever 2 you want. Disadvantage, though, you take the 2 lowest. So yeah. Tyria Franks. Is that right? Tyria Franks? Hello, welcome. So will there be an ability used for when you need to deceive or persuade someone, or will that be purely up to roleplay? No, that absolutely. Let's go down. Let's scroll down. So we'll go past this. This is roleplay. These are roleplay checks. The skill checks are in this game. If you're not trained in a skill, you are only rolling a single d6, which kind of means you can't just somehow accidentally unlock a massive safe if you roll, a nat 20 or whatever. You can only go so high with a with something that you're not trained in, because you only have the 1d6. And occasionally you can add certain your stats as well to these. Like if it suits the moment, if the DM allows it, you can be like, hey, can I add my power to this? Can I add my agility to this, or my mind, or whatever? So they're all in it. There is a bit of roleplay there and circumstance for adding these bonuses to rolls. But if you're trained in a skill, and I'll talk about the skills later, you roll 2d6, so as normal. If you are, there's 3 levels of training. If you have a second level of training, if you have 2 levels of training, you roll basically with advantage. And then if you are a master in that skill, with advantage, you take the 2, whichever 2 are more preferable. But if you are a master in that skill, you roll all 3 dice plus whatever bonuses. So you don't even just take the highest 2 or the best 2. You roll all 3. So that's a cool feature. And then in terms of difficulties on rolls, this is kind of roughly the thing I'm looking at right now. An easy roll is a 3. Medium roll is a 6. Hard roll is 9 or more. Near impossible would be a 12, and then an impossible feat would be a 15. So that's that. Rolling 2 1s on the dice is an automatic fail. They're called snake eyes. So there goes one of my dice. Sorry. Snake eyes, so it's an automatic fail. And if you get 2 6s, it's a miracle roll. And that's an automatic success, or it's a critical hit. Critical hits in this will automatically have the current hit points of a creature, which I think is super cool. And then in terms of actions, every character's got 3 actions typically. I think I'm going to go with 3 action system. You can spend actions whenever you like. Flourishes in this, which are in the skill tree, which I'll talk about later, will add are kind of extra bonus things that you can add to the end of an attack action, and then tricks you can add to the end of any action. So that might be like dash or disengage and stuff like that. and you will use stamina to use either of these. I'm just gonna get this dice so my doggy don't eat it. And then this is another thing I put in here as well, backward swings. These have come up quite a lot in the skill tree, so I just made a separate thing rather than saying the same thing over and over again. I've just called them backward swings. So these are attacks often made, these are kind of like offhand attacks. These are attacks often made as part of an attack action. And so when a backswing attack is made, you do so with disadvantage, and the roll result can't be modified in any way. And additionally, if you get a re-roll, even with the disadvantage, they're ignored. So there are these kind of like extra little things you can do or add to an attack to maybe get a bit more damage in. So that's that. Hey, Spider Lily, hello! Yes, a TTRPG for Gostar called Goblins. Yeah, we've been working on it for a little while. I'm pretty proud of it so far, I have to say. Ooh, so let's look at these skills. We'll get to them. Where are they? There they are. Here's our 13 main skills. We kind of worked them out last time in one of the previous streams. So we've got aura, someone's aura. That's kind of your general charisma as well, and influence and stuff. This is kind of like your persuasion and intimidation and everything smashed into the one. We've got create, so if ever you want to create something. Deception is there, obviously you know deception. Endure, to endure any tough conditions or whatever. Insight. We've got mend, so if ever you want to repair, this is like medicine, healing, fixing objects and things like that. That is mending. Mimic is just a really fun one. I like it. If you ever want to mimic something, mimic. Checks, physical checks, athletics, and acrobatics kind of mashed into one. React is how quickly you react to something. So to dodge out of the way of something or whatever. Certain abilities and stuff like that might require someone to make a react check. So in here as well, these skills are also occasionally used as your saving throws. But we don't have saving throws in this. We've got skills, and we've also got two forms of defenses. We've got AC, which is your armor, which is normal for most kind of physical attacks and stuff. And then we've got will. So your will is your mind, power, and spirit all added up. And this is your sheer willpower and your ability to push through magical and other supernatural effects. So this is mainly going to be used in spell casting and such. And so when you make a spell attack, for example, you won't maybe target their AC. Instead, you'll target someone's will. So that's what that is. And this is kind of taking inspiration from 4th edition, where you had like 3 other defenses. There was fortitude, willpower, and agility, I think, or reflex. That was it. Yeah, fortitude, reflex, and willpower. So that's where that comes by. Wanted to smash it down just to 2. So you just got AC and you got will. Because I don't think a lot of the other ones came up very often. A lot of the time it was like reflex came up a lot. Will might occasionally come up for like charm things and stuff like that. But I figured, if needs be, you can always use a react skill to dodge out of the way of a trap or something like that. We've also got recall, that is to recall information that you have learned specifically. So this is your history, religion, all that kind of stuff on occult or whatever. Sense is kind of perception, but it's also like, it's not just your senses or whatever. It might be like, ooh, I'm picking up, it's kind of like an insight here. Oh, not quite insight, but it's more like, okay, I can pick up someone's like powerful aura, 20 feet away. I can't see them, but I can sense, so it's very anime. A lot of times in anime, people just sense people's, magical threads or whatever. Tinker then is making and fixing, kind of like mending, but this is more and kind of like a creation check. I think tinkering is a bit different from create, and I think it's different enough to mending that I think it's specific enough to need a skill of its own. And then understand is kind of just kind of past insight. Insight's kind of just more like living things. Understand is like understanding the natural magical nature of something, rather than like a living person you would use insight on to understand something new that you've not comprehended before. Maybe is that's what the understand skill is. So yeah, there we go. There are your skills for this TTRPG. Could exploding generate luck? I think that's a cool idea, actually. Could be a cool alternative power, actually, that maybe you can spend your additional re-rolls to make luck. That's kind of cool. That's kind of dope, actually. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna add that down. oh, not read, sorry, rad rolls can make luck. That's a very powerful ability. I like that. That's sick. Okay, let me see. I'm just gonna scroll through because I'm kind of catching up with things. What have I missed? Book Bro says, what do you do when you have both advantage and disadvantage? Again, I think they'll probably cancel each other out, probably. And you'll just do a regular roll. But I think, you know, if you have 2 advantages and 1 disadvantage, maybe, I don't know if it needs to get complicated like that. I don't think they should stack, really. But they probably just cancel each other out. Farming aura. Like you watch online. Coterie says, so monster categories, beasts, plants, etc. are becoming elements now. How will that interact with gathering, cooking, alchemy, faux feller, etc.? Faux feller, I've changed. Faux feller node has been associated with the different types, the different thread types. As for monster categories, like for the gathering, cooking, and everything else, I'll just be changing them in the same way. And there might be less of them now, I think. So there's 11 types. No, there's actually 13 types. 2 I haven't mentioned. One is called Void and one is called Chaos. I haven't gone into those yet. I'm going to leave those till last because they're quite complicated. Void basically means you have no thread type and you're kind of like an anti-mage person. You can do lots of counter spells and all that kind of stuff, and you can eat spells. You can become like a spell broken. And then Chaos types, your thread is constantly changing. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll make a difference. I'll just have to go back, rework everything basically for crafting, and yeah, this is a fire type resource, this is a cold type resource, all that kind of stuff. But some of them kind of work, you know, things like beast can kind of be used for physical things. I'll show you real quick like how I've changed up the faux feller. So the faux feller feat, for anyone who doesn't know, in the skill tree that I made for D&D, you can try all this out. This is all, I've made videos on all of these skill trees. It's all free for you to use and try out. But this faux feller is kind of like a ranger ability. You choose, typically you would have chosen a creature type, and you get like you can spend stamina to use different cool fighting techniques against that particular type. And often if you kill that type of creature, you'll learn how to permanently use that effect against other creatures in the future. But the way I've changed this is like here, weird. I've changed aberration. This was aberration before. I've changed it to weird now. So now while fighting weird types, I love that sentence on its own. When fighting weird types, you can spend 2 stamina as part of the attack against them to gain 10 foot of reach if it's a melee attack, or to ignore cover if it's a ranged attack. And then if you become a weird type, you can use this ability on any creature regardless of their strand. So there's a double bonus here if you are a hunter of weird people and you're also weird yourself, because you know how to fight like that. You just know how to fight that way completely now. This is not just a thing that you can use on any weird types, but you've learned how to use it by being a weird type yourself. Physical as well. This is kind of, I changed up beasts. So this was for beasts originally, but yeah, while fighting physical types, you can spend 1 stamina to gain advantage on an attack against them, so long as they have no allies adjacent to them. And then the nature type is like that, but it's actually, as long as you have an ally adjacent to them, you can spend 1 stamina to gain advantage against them. And then this, because this is a little more, like a little less broken, I suppose, because you have to have an ally physically there. If you become nature type, because nature is all about, you know, kindredness, being together and bonding. If you are a nature type, you can use this ability on any creature regardless of their stance. So as long as there's an ally next to someone, you can spend a stamina to gain advantage on the attack. Should probably be 2 stamina. You learn these things as you think about them a little more. You're like, well, okay, maybe I'll change that. But yeah, there we go. So let's go back up. We'll go to, yeah, we've got armors, HP then. Whenever this is yeah, so whenever you start off, I write this later as well in the document, but when you start off, you will gain your level plus your power in hit points. That's your starting hit points. And then anytime, ignore this, but anytime you purchase the health node right here at the very start, anytime you purchase that, for the first time each level, you will gain your power in health. You'll gain that many hit points to your maximum hit points. So let's say you had 3 power. Let's say you start off with 4 hit points. And now at level 1, I'm going to purchase health one more time. So I'm going to add 3 more to that. So now I've got 7 hit points at level 1. If at any stage I purchase that additional times before I become level 2, I'll only ever gain 1 more hit dice. So you can't go crazy. It's a big impact, and then it kind of like levels off. You can get more if you want. You can kind of mine it, but you won't get many more. You won't get as many. Similarly, same thing happens with stamina and mana. If you spend, if you purchase stamina or mana for the first time, you'll gain your what's the ability again? You'll gain your spirit amount of mana or stamina, and then any additional purchases after that is just 1. So that's that. We'll see how broken or not broken it is at some point. And also, yeah, when you're choosing and assigning your ability scores, everything starts off at 0, and you will get 4 points to assign to your abilities, and you can lower any of these into negatives to gain an additional point to spend in any other stat. And oh, my fiance is back. Hello. Two moments, just a moment. I'm just going to go say hello. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Hello. Sorry. Let's have a look at some of the what's it call it here, the chat, so we can catch up with you all. Very fun. Spider Lily says, I've been loving the kin videos. It's fun seeing someone design a game. Your skills are really interesting. Thank you very much. James Clark. Hello, James Clark. Welcome. Does exploding require both D6s to land on 6? No, that's a crit. If you get 2 6s, that is a critical success. If you get 2 1s, that's a critical fail. But if you get doubles, that is known as a rad roll. So you get a roll. That's an exploding dice. You get to roll an extra dice. So it'll probably happen quite often. But not as often as you think. Book Bros says, no, it's just the same on any number besides 1. Oh yeah. Thanks for answering that. Brilliant. Yeah. Spider Lily says, are you combining what I call attributes and skills? So D&D's example, strength, whiz, dex is combined with the animal handling. No. As I mentioned, these skills will be occasionally, if the DM deems it, a situation where you should be able to add one of your attributes to it, they can allow it. They can allow you to add it to the roll, but most of the time, no, it'll just be, if you're trained or not, you'll be adding more 6s or whatever to that roll. But yes, maybe on special occasions, or maybe you can spend luck to add an attribute if the DM is not allowing you to. Here says, but all this is I have, but all this is a very nice project. Exciting stuff. Keep it up. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, thank you so much for joining. Thank you very, very much for hanging out. It's been lovely. Very nice to have you, Pierre. Tyria says, so sense is like a gut feeling. Yes, kind of. Yeah, sense is like that, but it's also, yeah, sensing. It can be your senses too as well. But yeah, it can also be a gut feeling for sure. Ish. Kind of. It is, I think it's like all your senses plus maybe your sixth sense. Is maybe a good way to describe it. Understand might kind of be a gut feeling, actually, down here. And Kotori says, how does stealth work? So, oh, did I not add it here? Maybe I forgot to add it. But actually, there's another skill here that's going to be sneaky. Sorry, I thought I added that here earlier, but I must have forgotten. But yes, there is a skill that is called sneaky, and that is both like sleight of hand stuff. It is any sneaky thing that you want to do. You can roll a sneaky check, and that thanks for the reminder. Actually, thank you very much. Can you combine elements like unholy nature? There is going to be an ability that is kind of like that. That is like a later level feature. But yes, and there will be things as well, like countering spells will involve, say if you wanted to counter a fire spell, you would use either a cold or an air spell to counter it. Things like that. Of an equal spell tier. I've got actually tiers for spells as well. So the way I'm gonna do spells is, let me go down here. Let me see, it's somewhere here. There we go. Mana, learning spells, adding spells, blah 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 blah. Yeah, we've got, I'm not gonna do, okay, so my thing is first level spells and stuff. They don't work with this. When you're using mana, it doesn't make sense that a first level spell costs 2 mana, if that makes sense. I don't know why that, for me, that doesn't make much sense if the spell is 1 but it costs 2, you know. So what I've done instead, and pretty much you could have done it, I could have just been like, you know, a first level spell costs 1 mana, a second level spell costs 2 mana, but then I've got, you know, this higher level spell stuff that costs 10 mana. It kind of all of a sudden goes up. But I like the idea of E, D, C, B, and A rank spells, and S rank spells, and then God rank spells. A, S. I'm sorry, mute my phone there. But then you've got if you can only cast 1 A or higher rank spell per day. If you cast more than that, you're going to gain some injuries. I've got injuries as well. I'll cover injuries because I got so much to cover. I got so much to tell you. Maybe I shouldn't share everything here. But there's a lot of cool stuff here. Very quickly, because there are only a few more questions here. I'll just go through them very quickly. Robert Bailey says, are strands and threads the same thing? They are, but I'm kind of debating which one I want to call them. If I want to call them threads or strands. So there's probably going to be a lot of both being used in the document, but I'll figure it out at some point. Let me know in the chat which you prefer the idea of. I'm kind of leaning towards strands, but I'm kind of conditioned to say threads because I've said threads for so long, but I kind of like strands. Instinctively, that feels better. Guttery says, physical faux feather is essentially Swashbuckler's rogue feature. Yeah, 100%. It is. It is very much that. Book Bro says, yes, it's a rename. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Everyone's answering these questions is brilliant. Thank you very much. And Book Bro says, are there any cantrip equivalents? Yeah, I think cantrips are just going to be called cantrips in this. They're not going to be called spells or whatever, but maybe they're going to be called F tier spells, basically. So you could be an F tier wizard because you can only cast cantrips, and I think that's really funny. But yeah, they're in it for sure. They're going to be in it. And then we've got injuries. This is a big thing. You can get injuries are also kind of like, I guess my version of like exhaustion. So basically, whenever you drop to 0 hit points, and there's other ways to get injuries too, when you go to 0 hit points, you gain an injury. So when you gain an injury, you roll a d6, and each body part is associated with a different number. So I'll roll a dice. I got a 2. So 2 to 3 is your arm. Okay, so arm, 2 and then 3. So if I get a 2 and 3, one of my arms are injured. If your head is injured, you gain 1 trauma. A trauma, a scar, and an injury are all considered an injury. If something is injured, if you gain a trauma or if you gain a scar, these are all considered injuries. Okay. If your head is injured, you gain 1 trauma. So you'll kind of roll on a trauma table and you'll be maybe blind or fearless, or you become a kleptomaniac or something. Some sort of trauma to the head causes this. If you're hit in the body, you will gain a scar. And usually that means your maximum hit points will be reduced by, I'm going to say 2. Okay. If it's a limb, that limb becomes injured, so you can't use it, and there'll be a negative effect for that. Maybe you have disadvantage on attack rolls or whatever. And then if that injured limb, if your injured limb is hit a second time, so say you get an injury again on the exact same limb, you lose that limb. Okay? If your head is injured, if your injured head specifically, so you already have an injury on your head, if your injured head gains an injury, there's a 50-50 chance that you either fall unconscious or you die immediately. You lose your head. Okay? So injuries are no joke in this game. You can recover all injuries during a rest. So there's no short rests in this. There's only rests. A rest is when you spend 8 hours. I'll come back in. Let's get my full face in here. So a rest is when you take 8 hours to recover. When you rest, you get back all your hit points. You get back all your mana. And if you rest in a civilized area, you can recover 2 injuries. Okay, so typical rest, if you're out in the wilderness, you'll get back your mana, you'll get back your health, but you won't be able to recover injuries. You can only do that in a civilized area, and you'll recover 2 injuries. If you gain 6 injuries, you die. If you get 6 injuries in this game, you die. Or obviously, if your head is injured and you gain an injury and you flip a coin or whatever and you get the dying side, then you just straight up die as well. So there's no bleeding out in this. You can keep fighting when you get injuries. If you are at 0 hit points, you will you're still alive, okay? But you can stay down and stay out of the fight in that stage, because you're like, okay, any other time I take damage now, I'm just gonna straight up take an injury. So I think that was super cool, and I was inspired by Break here with this one, because it was a really, really cool feature that they have, that you don't, when you drop to 0, when you lose all your hearts or whatever in Break, you just continue rolling injury tables. So you can stay out of the fight, or you can keep going. You can make that risk. You make that choice, and it's not a gamble necessarily. It's kind of quite a calculated choice. You know your condition. You know what you're in. You know if you get hit again, you're risking death. You're risking losing limbs. All that kind of stuff. The big thing I want to go for with Goblins as a TTRPG is I want adventurers to be these crazy sons of bitches who go out there, who risk everything, risk their humanity, risk their physical body, their physical being, and will always come out changed and different to normal people. So, for example, you go into a cave. I talked with Skylar, the ADHDM, about this, and he said it, he put it perfectly. Adventurers should be those people, they go into a dungeon, and you've got maybe a physical type, you got maybe 2 physical types, a cold type, and a fire type. And by the time they leave that dungeon on the other side, one of those people is missing an arm. The other one's missing a leg, but they've replaced it with a robotic leg while they're in the dungeon. 2 of these people's types have changed. Maybe one of the person's physical type has changed to a fire type, and maybe the fire type has changed now to a lightning type, and the person who was also a physical type, who lost a leg and replaced it with a mechanical one, is now a tech type. So you go into a tavern now, and you look freaking weird as hell. You've got like a fiery aura. One person's like half robot. The other person has just staticky hair because they're all lightning and stuff. They've got these magic items that have like grown onto their bodies. That's the kind of game I'm going for. Is you build adventurers who start off as but become, you know, they're not even on the alphabet anymore by the time the campaign ends. They are like, you know, a smiley face, or they are like, you know, a tree. You know, that is the difference between a starting adventure and the end of campaign adventure. That's the vibe I'm going for here. So that's what I want Goblins to be. I want it to be just real funny. It's just a big hot pot of everything just thrown together. And I just think that's super fun. That's what I love in the game, and that's kind of what I want to capture and stuff. So I hope that love and everything comes across in the actual game system itself. But what are your thoughts on it? Let me know. I'll read through some messages here. Let's see what people have been saying. Bailey says, yes, that's a rename that the Goblins... Oh, yeah, sorry, I've read this already. Sorry. I've just answered that, actually. Robert Bailey asked, are there any rules for permanent injury, like loss of limbs, eyes, and disfiguration? There you go. I'm glad I answered that. Froyo says, wait, can you heal a trauma just like healing other injuries? Yeah, you can heal scars, injuries, like injured limbs, and traumas. They're all considered injuries. So yes, if you rest and spend time in a civilized place, you can recover a trauma to some degree. You know, you can probably keep it as like a less mechanical trauma for your character to do, but like mechanically it won't affect you anymore as heavily. You'll get the attention that you need and the peace of mind that you need. Robert Bailey says, already answering this question, my question, great. I like permanent injury systems, especially if you can resolve those injuries through gameplay. Yeah, that's the thing. Injuries are really scary when you can't resolve, when they're kind of like, when they are permanent. But I want them to be a thing that's really detrimental. And, you know, the more you get, the closer you get to death as a character while you're out adventuring. But you'll need to come back to civilization, to a town, to recover them so you don't die. And they will go away. They go, but maybe you can add that nice, you know, flavor to your characters. The only thing that won't come back is if you have an injured limb, they can be recovered. No problem. If you lose the limb, those are gone. Those are definitely gone. But in this game, cybernetics are going to be a thing. My fantasy world is just like, it's cyberpunk, it's fantasy, it's everything all mashed into one. So you can get robotic limbs or, you know, artificial limbs in this. It might be stranger. You might lose some of your humanity when you do this. But yeah, that's a risk I think people are maybe willing to take as adventurers. That's what makes adventurers in the end of the day. And Brooke Bro says, how do you determine which arm leg gets hit? Is it just a coin flip? Well, actually, on the little chart I've been sketching out, like the little... this is going to be the character sheet. But there's going to be a little bean guy here. And there's going to be a number for each limb and body part and everything. I think, yeah, you can... You know, one of these is going to be your primary arm, and you'll put a little tick maybe by your primary arm that you use. The other one's going to be your offhand arm or whatever, and maybe it's not as important to you. But one is the one that you fight with. I don't know if that's going to be important or not. I maybe will leave that out because I think it just muddles things a bit. But basically, if you roll 2, that's going to be maybe your left arm. If you roll a 3, it's always going to be your right arm. So that's how you determine it. Risk their goblinity. Carl says, I like the sound of that. As one of my friends likes to point out often, reasonable people do not become adventurers. Yeah, exactly. Adventurers are crazy, but they're working on like a completely different scale to everyone else. You know, people might be complaining about the price of ale going from like 1 silver to 2 silver, whereas adventurers are working with hundreds of golds at a time, and they are buying magical items that are worth several thousand gold. That's like a king's wage or something, or some crazy like that. So they're working with crazy numbers. But and they need it to survive. It's kind of like, you know, they're making all this gold, but, you know, in the end of the day, they're spending it all as well to maintain this lifestyle. You know, it's like, oh, damn, I need to spend 5,000 gold now to replace my arm with a bazooka arm because I lost it, and that's going to be much more beneficial to me down the line. Bug Bro says, can you regrow a lost limb with your strand affinity like a plant arm, or is this reserved to tech types? No, so you can replace them. There's many ways you can replace them. Obviously magic as well can regrow limbs, and there's also a regen node. So I'll go down here and show you. Yeah, regen right here. So regen node basically is a passive healing node. It's quite expensive, but you can also, for each additional purchase of regen after the first time, you will gain one of these strange regen mutations, and one of them is called regenerate limb. So you can learn to regrow your own limbs as well. So it's not always super detrimental to you. Maybe you'll develop a mutation to now be able to regrow limbs, but it's a big investment. So your regen now grants you the ability to regenerate a missing limb during a long rest. During this time, you can't recover any injuries, and the regenerated limb returns injured as an injured limb, and you gain 1 scar. So you gain an additional injury. So you'll have a missing limb. Missing limbs don't count as injuries. Maybe I should make them count as 2 injuries or something. Yeah, but basically you'll get back the missing limb, but you'll gain 2 injuries, which is basically another night's rest of recovering. But that's the payoff for that. Another one allows you to age slowly, and the other one is rapid recovery, so you can you're able to heal an additional injury whenever you recover injuries in like a civilized place. So you can now recover 3 injuries, and also whenever you're not in a civilized area, you'll always be able to recover at least 1 injury. So that's that. But yeah. I'm really proud, to be honest, of how this is going. It's getting so close to being a game, and I just think that it's just so exciting. I'll answer the rest of your questions here, and then I think we'll leave it there for the stream. I think I've shared enough for now, but yeah. Rob Brady says, "Oh man, the ability to manifest an arm made of fire from the stump sounds so rad." That's a big thing as well. Your tech type your thread type can change. There's many ways your thread type can change, but one of the ways it can change is if you are revived as well. If you're brought back from the dead, and based on the spell that revives you, you will become that type now. So if you're brought back with fire, if you're reborn like a phoenix, you will now be a fire type permanently. If necromancy, if you know, like unholy magic brought you back, you're going to be an unholy type. Similarly for holy type, and another one that can bring you back is probably nature as well. So you become a natured plant person when you come back, which is super cool as well. And obviously, yes, with the regen ability, you could totally reflavor it as now your arm is just fire, or now your arm is just a plant arm. And I think that's sick. That's so cool. Carl says, both the plant arm and the firearm sound badass. Yeah, right? Imagine that. I've seen a bunch of adventurers who have lost limbs and stuff, and they got plant arms and robot arms and firearms and everything else. That's sick as hell. Amber says, while this may be part of the system, permanent disfigurements or injuries are definitely a session 0 discussion. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. For sure. Yeah, I agree. I might put a little warning in that or whatever, because I know, Amber, you don't like them for sure. But yeah. Have you made any spells yet? I have not made any spells yet, King of Quacks. That is going to be a massive job, and I need to figure out a few things before that. But we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. I've gone through now all the physical skill tree. I'll show you here now. So I've rewritten all the red section here. I've rewritten pretty much all the green section. And now I've got to do the blue and then all the in-between stuff. But yeah. Weird arm, tentacles. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. So, there we go. That is a brief summary of my system. Thank you all for popping by. It's been really, really nice. Yeah, Amber says, I don't like the injuries, but getting like a replacement arm would be cool too. I always like that. I always think it's pretty sick, where you change your character and develop them over time, and these scars and replacements and everything just tell this massive story. And that's what the skill trees are meant to be. They're meant to be this way of telling a story. You get to make the choices about decisions that you make along the way, rather than having your story basically told before you even start playing. You know, with classes, everything's set. The only way you can change that is by multi-classing. But with skill trees and with this system, it's all about you telling your narrative. The abilities that you take from the skill tree, the limbs that you replace, the magic items that you build are all choices that you make, and so you are in full control of the story that you tell and the character that you want to be. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the stream. It's been so nice chatting to you all, and I'll see you next Tuesday, this Tuesday coming, I suppose, next week, where I'm going to be talking about